Hello, 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 and welcome to another new episode of my Big Fat Pull List. And this is an exciting special follow-up episode, so much so that we've got the gang here. I am Dr. Impact, and joining me today we have...
I am Dragonus Prime.
Smurphy.
The Mutagen Man himself is here. Pistol Danger.
Oh, the Mutagen Man?
Mutagen Man. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
I thought we were all going to do things, and then I was prepared, and then no one else was.
No, we don't come prepared.
Yeah, obviously.
Ever.
Yeah.
So if you guys are wondering why we're talking about Mutagen Man...
We were supposed to read this?
The Mutagen Man story.
The Mutagen Man book that didn't come out.
That's not what I read.
Yeah, no, okay.
Alright, that's going to be weird.
No, I didn't either. I read Sense and Sensibility, and it was senseless.
I read Pride and Prejudice.
But with zombies.
But with zombies?
No. Was that not the reading critic? I'll see myself out.
Okay, yeah, just leave. No, folks, what we're here to talk about is we are doing a follow-up to our one-shot review. Our first one-shot review, I think, wasn't it?
Yep.
That we did on the Last Ronin #1, the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles kind of futuristic, pseudo-dystopian, post-apocalyptic story.
And let's be clear, the reason why we're doing the follow-up now, that book took forever to come out.
Took forever.
Everyone's like, why are you guys just finally now doing it? It finally ended.
Well, it finally ended, and we all are always so way
it
behind.
finally came out when the Turtles were adults.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, actually, we've passed the year that it takes place in. You know, not really, but kind of. Yeah, it took forever to come out, which is why I don't know about you guys, but that's why I only read issue 1 at first, and I loved it. And we, check out the archive. We'll put a link in the description and the show notes below to that episode. But I think we all pretty much loved that first issue, but it was so sporadic in release that for me, I just waited until they were all out.
Yeah, that's what I think. I kept up with it till issue 3, and then I was like, when it finishes, it finishes.
That's what I was. I finished issue 3. 4 took forever, so I was like, I'm just going to wait for 5 to finally come out, and I'll read 4 and 5 together. So
I haven't read a single one.
Yes.
He's
Loser.
the real winner. Because smart
No.
play.
Oh, okay.
Smart play.
I want you all to sell me on this book.
Well, and to be fair, you're not really the only one in that boat because, as everybody knows, we all get so busy with life and we all start to fall behind on our reading. None worse, more probably than me. I'm always way behind. So I only have read the first 4. I have not read the 5th and final issue. Now, to that note, guys, we will put up now the spoiler warning.
Spoiler warning.
You have to. I mean, with this one you have to spoil it, otherwise it won't be really a review.
Right, yeah, I mean, we're going to have to spoil it. So even for me, that warning is for me as well as for Dragonus. We are going to spoil the ending, although I figure with what I've read of it so far, the ending is probably going to be pretty just, wrap-up stuff. I think I've seen probably most of the major things that have occurred. But anyway, it'll be fun to talk about and exciting to get into. So let's get into this, guys. I mean, Dragonus, obviously you have held off. So let's start with you. Is there a reason that you held off for reading it?
First off was financial.
Sure.
It's an expensive book. And this
Comics
is like
are
what?
expensive in general.
This is the first issue was $8.99.
Yeah.
All issues were
We're talking
$8.99.
like $9-10 a book.
Yeah.
You know what? I figured I'd just wait for it to be out, especially after hearing how all the delays, and I would just read it in all one get-go. And then you all talked about doing the episode about it. I was like, well, cool. I can hear about it, decide if I want to buy the trade then.
And for people that are curious, I don't know if the trade is out yet, but the hardcover is out. And even though I have all the issues, I actually was flipping through the hardcover and contemplating buying the hardcover as well because it's a nice looking book.
Hardcovers are generally really, really well done.
And if I want to reread it, I'd rather kind of read my hardcover than individual books.
Yeah,
Yes.
there's that too. Yeah, and it's nice, and it's got. I don't think it has all of the variant covers reprinted in it because there were a ton for this book.
The back of each individual issue,
Yeah.
has all the variants, and it blew my mind.
Yeah.
Because I was like, holy crap.
Yeah, I mean, each issue had like 9 or 10 variants.
See, that's ridiculous because
And reprints.
as a
and
collector out there, that means you're going to spend like $90 for one issue.
per issue.
Issue 1,
Yeah,
right.
Like that's
Yeah,
Unnecessary?
I'm all about variant issues, but then don't make your individual books $10 a pop.
Right.
yeah, or I mean, make the variants a different price, try to limit the amount, make something about them special, other than just a regular variant cover.
Now the books are thicker.
It's true.
They are a little thicker, but not $9 thicker.
Now I would say like this is one of the rare instances where it's like instead of having all these variant covers, if they were to offer like a hard or soft back art book of this story, I would have picked that up when you were going to put it all in there. Like the initial designs, all of it, I would have loved to have seen that.
So let me ask you guys this, because you guys all bought the individual issues, right?
Mm-hmm.
A couple of them.
Right, and you read through them. Do you feel like each book was worth $9?
Story content alone, yes, because the story was amazing.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I know, and I know, even though we just complained about it and bitched about it for the past few minutes.
Right,
Yeah.
but that's
Pistol.
Yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely thought it was worth it. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think that the only issue really when it comes to what you're talking about there, Dragonus, is the variants. You know, because as all books, you know, some variants are cooler than others. You know, sometimes the regular variant has an artist that maybe you don't like and you want to get the other one, but you know, you're worried about it selling out, so you buy the one that you don't really want so that you can get it and read the story, and then somewhere along the way you run into the variant that you did want, and so now you're shelling out at least another $9 or $10 on that. And I think that's the only issue. Like, give us something in a variant. Like, if you're going to put out a book with a variant, maybe that's kind of like what Pistol was saying. Maybe that has, you know, the variant has like an additional 3 pages of sketches that the regular doesn't have, making it something different to go after, other than just a cover.
Yeah. Why can't the variants be like the one I bought, which was Director's Cut? That surely is a variant. Like, it's a variant comic, Director's Cut, had more stuff in it.
Yeah.
Different cover.
Sure.
Yeah, I picked that one up. Why not? It's different, you know? I was like, did it add more to it? I don't think so. I get why it's Director's Cut, but still, like, you're actually getting more value.
So that brings up another interesting point about this book, Smurphy. So you bought the director's cut of it. You don't have the first.
No,
print.
I bought 2 copies of issue 1.
Oh, okay.
And the director's cut of issue 1.
Okay.
So, yeah. Just because I liked it, because I was like, both covers look kind of cool. Then I went home and looked at them today, and the only difference between the covers is the color of the moon. Mm-hmm. The color of the moon and this little IDW.
Yeah, the IDW logo is a different color.
And I was like, okay, whatever. But yeah.
I don't know about you, Pistol, but I bought issue 1 3 times.
I bought one of each issue.
Oh, okay.
I do not have the financial resources to do that in the way.
I don't typically either, but the way it was selling, I bought the first one, and then actually it was a shop that I think Smurphy and I were at. I think it was a day that we were at the shop together. The book was already, issue 1 had just come out like that week, and it was already selling online for like $80-$90. Yeah. And the guy at the shop had another one on the counter at cover price.
Yep.
And I was like, is this on hold? And they were like, no. And I go, how do you still have one? So I bought it. Mm-hmm. So I got 2. And then I thought, you know, for investment purposes and to take care of it, I went out and I bought the second printing, which, like your director's cut, Smurphy, is just the color of the moon is different. Yeah. And so that's my reader copy.
No, sorry. Issue 1, regular issue cool. That's, I guess, the second printing number or whatever. They changed the color of the moon and IDW logo. The director's cut is a sketch cover.
Oh,
like the cover's all white with just like him in the pose. Yeah, like almost like a pencil sketch cover on it.
That's cool.
So that's why I picked it up too, because I was like, completely different cover. They say they added more to the story. I haven't really read it, but yeah, I was just like, I bought into the gimmick and I picked it up. So, yeah.
That's another interesting. I mean, it's a little off topic since we're talking about the book and that itself, but just out of curiosity, because I think I know how Dragonus feels about this, but you know, the sketch covers I always find interesting because I like seeing the pencil art as an artist, and I'm sure Dragonus, you probably feel the same. As guys who either just dabble with art or in Smurphy's case, spoiler for people, Smurphy's getting back into the drawing game, but we'll get to that in another episode.
20 years.
We'll get to that in our next episode. But yeah, for you guys, does a sketch cover, like, is that cool to you guys, or is it just whatever?
It depends how it's done. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. I know that seems weird, but it really just depends. Like, if you can tell that the guy was like doodling, no. But if you can tell, like, oh, that's how he drew. Still has some of like the lines when, like, you know, when guys are doing faces, they do like the little crosshair.
Oh yeah.
If you can kind of see some of those lines in it, then it's just like, oh, interesting. Because you can see the artist's style.
Sure,
And
the
his thought
marks,
process.
yeah.
So he did it really cool. Where otherwise, it's just a black and white cover.
See, I always like those type of drawings in general because it's almost like a learning experience for me to see like how did they do that.
I was just, yeah, it's almost like a how-to manual.
That's my
Yeah.
my view.
Yeah, it's neat. It depends on the character, the
Sure.
artist,
Yeah.
and the size, and whether
Definitely
or not,
depends on the artist.
yeah, and whether or not I care enough to buy a second of it. Because generally, like everything I get is on my pull list. Like, so I didn't really see a lot of the variants for it, thankfully, because I probably would have gone out of my budget and grabbed a few if I liked it enough.
I also want to bring up this book is oversized.
It is. It is
And
not
I
a
know
regular, and not like it just in page count.
No.
Although there's that too.
But I noticed with Pistol, you have yours in like magazine board bag, right?
Yes.
I have mine in whatever the current stuff is, and it barely fits. Like it's super tight fit.
I have currently, as we're sitting here talking, I don't have mine in bags and boards because I've got it out on the table for us to kind of look through during this episode. But typically, I have most of mine, like you, Pistol, in magazine bag and board, except for issue 1. Issue 1, I have in a Golden Age bag and board.
It's perfect.
And it's actually it's maybe like a centimeter short on the top because it is kind of a taller book.
It is too, yeah.
But it's pretty close. It's much better than the other issues, which sit and kind of shuffle around in a magazine bag and board.
Now, for our listeners at home that may want to do this, are Golden Age bags easy to come by now still?
It depends where you go, man, because I know the comic book store I shop at, they have at least like 100 or two, at least they did, that you can buy loose if you want. So that'd be easy for me, but I don't know if all shops carry them or not.
Yeah, I guess it really kind of depends on what kind of back issues your shop carries. Like if your shop doesn't really specialize in anything prior to the Bronze Age, then chances are they're not going to have much in the way of silver or golden bags. But yeah, I mean, if your shop that's nearby specializes in all eras, then I'm sure they've got enough at least to get five for the 5 issues of the book.
And I'm sure you can find them online somewhere.
Oh
as well.
yeah, absolutely, yeah. Well, that's all the technical and just all that kind of stuff. But so enough of that. We are going to get into The Last Ronin now. Obviously, we've already said it's spoilers. We're going to talk about moments, but if you're listening to this, either you want to learn about it or you've already read it. So we don't need to go moment by moment, recapping everything, so that you don't sit there and go, why are you saying this? I just read this. I already know this part. So we're just going to get into it and just start talking about the book.
Before we begin, I want to start with Dragonus. What do you know about the book?
Oh, yeah, good question.
All I know is it is a post-apocalyptic story, and The Last Ronin, I know who that is. Oh, do you want me to say now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's fine.
From
Yeah.
What's your guess?
From what I have learned, is The Last Ronin is Michelangelo.
Yeah.
Mayhaps you guessed right. Mayhaps. We'll see. You did. Spoiler.
Nailed it.
Yeah, nailed it.
But that's about all I know, and I know that the other brothers, I think, are dead.
Yeah.
And it's the last round.
Right,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
kind of gleaned
Yeah.
that from the title.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, just out the gate, is that an interesting story to you?
Oh, fascinating. Yeah. In fact, one of my favorite episodes of the 2012 show, the CG one with Sean Astin,
Oh, the Nickelodeon? Yeah.
was the post-apocalyptic episode that started almost the exact same way, only it was Raphael who was by himself, and he thought all his brothers were dead.
Oh, I don't know if I got that
Yeah,
far
I
in the
haven't seen
show.
that.
I think
I'll
I
look it
only
up.
got through like the first
Fantastic.
2 seasons of it.
Yeah.
I think.
You find the other brothers throughout the story arc, but it's a fantastic story arc.
Okay. I just thought it would be interesting to hear from the person who hasn't read it, whether you were even inclined to be like, oh.
Well, that's what me got hooked on it.
Oh no, I love me some turtles.
And that's
I
what
think
got
we
me
all
hooked. Was like, oh, there's only one left. And I was like, well, shit, who is it?
Yeah.
You know? Like who is it and how? And clearly that's the story.
It's funny. You say I think we all love the Turtles, and I find it. I was just thinking about this a couple of nights ago. I always enjoyed the Turtles, when we were growing up, but I think it was Dragonus that got all of the Turtles toys for Christmas and everything every year.
That
and
was
so
our
I was,
generation, man.
yeah.
That
So I
was
was
what you
there
were
and I
talking
loved it and I played with them, but I wasn't as into it. I loved the movie. It wasn't really until the IDW series in, what was that, 2010, 2012, somewhere around there, when that started, that I started picking it up and I started getting into it more. And then went back and bought nearly all of the adventures and bought the collections of the old Mirage stuff and that. So, but even before this last 10-year Turtle obsession that I've gone into here, same. I would have been interested, just like you, Smurf, and I just like, yeah, that's a cool.
Right.
That's
It's a
just
cool idea.
Yeah, and also apparently it was something that Eastman and Laird had intended to do with the old series back from the Mirage days. I think it was the Mirage days, yeah, they had always intended on doing the story, and then kept pushing it off, and for whatever reason never got around to it. And then all the media stuff picked up, and then they had their split, and then it went to started jumping around from publishers. So
Did Eastman and Laird write this?
yes, in fact, so Eastman and Laird did repatch and did start talking again and rekindle their friendship a number of years ago. So thankfully they're back on co-creating terms. And so yes, they got together and polished up the story that they had written before, and just kind of doing some updates to it, and then turned the story, I believe, over to Tom Waltz to do the actual scripting and dialogue. So yes, they were a part of it. Now Eastman also did, I want to say, all the layouts for the book. Yeah, he did all the layouts for the book, and there are flashbacks that were done entirely by Eastman.
You can see,
and you can
tell.
it.
You can tell from the art.
He's got a unique art style.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it definitely reminds you of the old Turtle comics.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking too. Reading this before this episode, I was thinking, okay, well, I'm trying to figure out where this sets, and I guess you could kind of say it sets in any time, but it really does fit more with the classic Turtles books.
I think so.
Jenica's not there, so there is no mention of the fifth turtle, which means that it's clearly not in the future of IDW, or if it is, Jenica's just so far gone that...
Or dead.
But we don't even mention
it. They don't bring it up at all.
It's
and
not...
It would have been brought up, because when you read it, like...
I mean,
spoiler, it's Michelangelo. He's always reminiscing, and there's even parts where when he finally figured out it's Michelangelo and he's having conversations with himself, he's actually talking to his three dead brothers who you see drawn behind him, and he has
They're
full
like spirits
conversations.
that
They're like
kind of
spirits, yeah. And like he'll do something or something will happen, and he'll be like, "Oh, that was so dumb of me," and they're like, "Yeah, Mikey, you got to pick up your act," and like they each are trying to give him advice or
in fact,
something.
April constantly walks in the room and goes, "Who are you talking to?" Yeah.
and that like so there's not even like she's not drawn in it, she's not brought up at all, and like and Splinter's not in that way either, but he does mention Splinter a lot.
Well, you see what happens to Splinter.
Well, you do.
Honestly,
You
he's done kind of like Moon Knight in a way, like with the personalities. It
Yes.
feels like.
Almost, yeah.
Yeah, and I dig it.
And
He doesn't wear the bandana at all. The bandana's completely gone. Like if you open up the first page of the book, you just see a turtle sitting there.
I mean, that makes sense.
And he never puts on the orange bandana ever.
But he does
has them.
He does. He
He
has
has them, and
It's
he
like the
does
weapons.
wear a bandana.
But it's just a black one.
But it's a black bandana.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
like almost like Ronin from the Avengers. He wears more of a blacker outfit after that.
Well, it's
which
also
I
you
get.
could even interpret it as a sort of like
Mourning.
Well, yeah, like how we wear the black armband.
Yeah,
Right,
no,
sure.
that's exactly it. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
why I
absolutely.
see it as. Oh yeah, it all makes total sense.
Yeah, and also to your point, Pistol, about it kind of being a Moon Knight thing. Again, unless something is said in the 5th issue, and you guys would have to clarify that, I feel like the book lets you wonder: are they ghosts that are following him, that are attached to him, or has he so broken that he's created 3 other personalities to take the place of his brothers in his head? Now, I don't know. Does the 5th issue address that or clarify that?
I
either
would
way?
say at the story's end, you do know that it's not him losing it. It's more like spirit guidance.
Okay.
That makes sense for the ninja.
Yeah, for the
Sure.
right, and,
Yeah.
and especially the way it ends, which we'll get there.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, let's get going.
Yeah, let's get going. So in the beginning of the series, it's that, especially that first issue, is just kind of like nonstop action and leaves you going, what is going on?
Well, it's action and like stealth infiltration, things
Yeah.
like that. So there's a lot of
Yeah, and beautiful pacing too.
and their world building.
Yeah,
Because
very
it's
much
like
so.
You're figuring out that pretty much the Foot Clan took over. Mm-hmm. They have a building in the center of Manhattan that's like they're building like the Sears Tower, but it's like the Foot Tower, and the police are gone. And
I think that's what they call it, isn't it? The Foot Tower?
Like that,
Yeah,
and the police are gone, and they're being patrolled by like Foot Clan robots.
Who's running the foot?
What's his name?
Karai's son.
Yeah,
Karai's son, Oroku Hiroto.
who's also being haunted by Karai.
Yeah. Well, he has her
But
body.
it's a different haunting.
Yeah.
Like, it was more like, I hate my mom. It was almost like a Psycho type thing where it's like, I hate my mom, but her body's still here. And she drives me to be evil because I hate her so much.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Kind of, yeah.
that's why I took it as. I mean, you know, because
I can see that angle of it. Yeah, absolutely.
So
Yeah, so Hirotu Oroku Hirotu, or whichever way it is that
Right.
you say it. Yeah, he's the new leader of the Foot, and you start to learn. I think especially, I want to say it's probably the second issue, maybe. You start to learn kind of what happened. That there was a tentative peace deal that he wanted to make with the Hamato clan.
Okay.
And
well, that's where you got
And
into
that
too.
was
Splinter has
in
a whole
the-
group
in the
and they have
back.
soldiers now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's like actual military soldiers. So it's like
Okay.
I guess that's another thing to point out is that
Yeah,
there are two different kinds of flashbacks.
yeah.
As we're trying to explain this to Dragonus and our listeners, there are two different kinds of flashbacks. There are the flashbacks that go back to where everything started to fall apart, and those are done by a different artist.
Right. Okay.
And then there are the flashbacks that occur after everybody has died and it's all fallen apart, and you follow what happened to Michelangelo,
Right.
and that's the Kevin Eastman pages.
Okay.
And then there's
And
the
then
current
there's the
storyline.
current
That's like
storyline,
the artwork
which-
is on the
yeah.
cover.
So you got 3 artists in one book.
Kind of, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the one storyline that shows the fall of everything, I want to say that probably takes place. Like if they're 18 in the old comics, then that story probably takes place. What do you think? About 10 years later, they're probably in their late 20s or 30.
The very, very end of the book, Mikey faces off against the bad guy. Spoiler, but but they have a conversation, and he was like, "Oh, he's like, your family's been dead for what, like 10 years?" He goes, "It's been 16
Yeah.
years since they've been dead."
Since they died.
Since they died.
But I'm talking about since the original series up until when they died.
I would say honestly,
they are
it's
adults.
Almost,
Yeah.
It's almost they're adults. Spoiler. April, in case you have a kid who's a teenager,
But
she's in her
that's-
20s.
That's not
That's
there
not-
yet.
no, I'm
That's
talking-
that's
You're
the
talking
main
about
story.
the
Yeah, sorry. I thought we
I'm
were
talking
about
about
the side
when it
story.
falls,
Oh, God,
when
when it
everything
falls?
falls apart before Michelangelo goes off on
well,
his own.
That's before they have. That's before those guys have a kid.
Yes.
That's before everybody dies.
Right. So,
yeah.
so it's got to be. So yeah, I would say they're probably like time wise, probably 30s.
That's what I was saying, around
30s-ish?
28 or 30,
Yeah,
around 10 years
maybe
after
30s,
the
yeah.
original series. And then, yeah, like you said, Smurphy, it's 16 years
since-
after that.
Since he lost his
So
family.
he's only like in his 40s.
Somewhere around there, 40s, 50s,
But,
yeah.
Yeah.
but
That's,
battle,
that's
well-
still young for a ninja.
And what
but
you find
battle
out,
damage,
yeah.
he's like in his 90s.
Yeah.
Like, he's
well, to that, what you find out is as he's grown older, his mutation has
Yeah,
grown.
that was going to, yeah.
yeah.
And it's really interesting. Like he's got a better healing factor. He's more durable. His skin's thicker. Like he is.
He's
continually
bigger, too.
Yeah.
He's bigger, yeah.
He's about
They noticeably got bigger.
the size of Slash.
I was just
From,
going to say, he almost
that,
looks like
yeah.
Slash at times, yeah.
And
Which I would thought would be real interesting if it was actually Slash as the last Ronin, like all mind fucked. Anyway, that's not the point. We've tangented enough.
And when they draw him next to April, you can see the difference. Like,
Yeah.
people are like, how can you tell he's huge? Because they draw him standing literally right next to April.
Yeah.
And like you're just like, guys,
So
the
really
menace
like the
and
Hulk.
monster. Just about, man.
A little bit,
like,
yeah.
Like
More like a Mark Ruffalo Hulk, not
yeah.
like a Ed
Yeah.
McGuinness Hulk,
Right.
yeah. Yeah.
But let's get back to the first issue.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
do you find out at the end of the first issue? Because every issue's like important, and they tell you something like a major key to the plot.
The end of the first issue is the reveal of who the last Ronin is.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah,
It-
that's how the
it's-
first issue
It's
ends.
Mikey's alive, and the other three brothers and Splinter are dead.
Yeah.
Would you have preferred they waited until the final book to say who it was?
No,
No.
I like it. I like it better this way.
Yeah.
I really like it better this way. So
And I mean, at the first you don't find out they're kind of spirits. They for a while in the first
Right.
book they're just always talking behind him, but you only see him, so you're not sure at first. Like,
and they're drawn in the shadows.
Yeah.
So you're like, are they different colors because they're in the shadows? Like, are they really there, or is Mikey just nuts?
yeah,
Yeah.
And so then you find out, like, oh, he's not nuts. It's like
Yeah.
a spirit
Okay.
guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's just grown up with his three brothers for so long and always had him with him that when they're gone, he pretty much can't take it and he needs
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So that's how he keeps his sanity, sort of.
And his whole goal in the current storyline is, at this point, after his travels, during that 16-year period, he has decided he's going to end
Yeah.
the Saki,
Foot Clan.
the Foot Clan completely.
His family's been ended. It's time to end their family.
his family is over, but the Hamato clan still exists.
Yeah, I know. But I'm saying
Yeah.
his thought process is my
Yes.
immediately family's over.
Yeah.
I'm going to end them as
Yeah.
our legacy. Like, this is our legacy to end it.
For his father and
Yeah,
his brothers.
for my father and brother.
So what happens in an issue 2?
Issue 2, you get more of the backstory. You find out the first turtle to fall. You find out
Okay.
the break of the alliance.
Sadly, the covers kind of ruin it.
They can at times.
Yeah.
Well,
like
that's
at
any
times.
comic.
I'm just saying, though, the covers kind of ruin it because, like, when I first got it, I was like, oh, I think I knew who bites it in the second issue. And Pretty much, yeah. That's
Okay.
yeah.
Actually, it's not that, unless that's the
No,
third
that's the
issue.
third.
Okay,
That's
sorry,
the third
yeah.
that you're pointing at, Smurphy, there.
My bad.
But yeah.
Yeah, you find out Raph is the first to fall because they break the treaty, and then
Oh,
they...
God, that whole sequence when Raph dies. Oh,
It's-
man.
I'm
Yeah.
not surprised that Raph is the first to fall.
Well,
Yeah.
he got pissed like Raph
Yeah.
does, and he goes and they're discussing what do we do about it.
Yeah.
And he goes, I know what we're gonna do about it. And Leo was trying to take the more
And they were
strategic
worried about
approach.
Splinter, because
And they were.
Splinter's gravely injured. So
Right.
now
Yeah.
Splinter's injured, and they're like, "Hey man, let's be strategic about this. We gotta be rash." And Raph goes, "Nope," and he just
so he has a
goes,
plan, attack.
yeah,
He-
bingo.
He also thinks, because he even says when he goes into the attack, when he goes off to fight, he's like, you killed my father.
Yeah.
He doesn't know that Splinter hasn't died, or that the wounds at that point in time for Splinter are not fatal.
Right.
Like, Splinter does not die from that fight,
no,
but
he doesn't
Raph
fall.
believes that he did.
Yeah. Splinter was pissed they betrayed him and hurt his dad. He's like, "You hurt my dad, I'm gonna hurt you."
Yeah.
And that's all he's thinking of.
Okay.
He storms off.
And he takes on the Foot Clan, and he fucking wrecks house, man.
Yeah.
I'm sure he does.
Have you ever seen The Raid?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like The Raid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's actually a real good way
or
to
like
explain
the
it.
movie
Yeah.
The Protector. Like he's
Okay.
going level by level through the building, taking out waves of foot guys,
That's
being like,
cool.
"I'm coming to get you, and nothing's gonna stop me."
So he goes out like a boss.
Oh yeah, he definitely goes.
That's
out.
Leo and Casey. Raph finds him on like a dock somewhere.
Does he?
And
My bad.
yeah, Raph
It's been
finds
so-
him on
it's
a
been
dock.
so long since I
because
read one and
Karai's
two.
given the like, yeah, we betrayed them. What, like, you can't, because like some of the Foot came back. Like, you can't come back injured. You either die fighting or complete the mission. And Raph's like, good news, motherfuckers, Dad's home.
You're
and
right,
he just
sorry.
starts.
But it
I'm
does
thinking
it does
I'm thinking
kind of
Mikey. Mikey does.
it
that.
does
Sorry.
kind of
I
start
missed-
though,
I
like
missed it
somebody
up,
was saying,
yeah.
in the
It's
building,
very-
going
Yeah.
through, and
Yeah.
then eventually
Right,
it goes to
a
the
dock. 'Cause
docks,
he finds them. He finds like whoever. He's like, "Hey, you're responsible. I'm gonna end you now."
and
then
he
it goes
takes
back.
him into the water, and they have this amazing underwater battle.
Yeah.
That is just so cool, and that
Cool.
splash page. So Raph essentially kind of, I mean, he dies on the page before, but he essentially kind of dies in a splash page, and it's maybe one of the most beautiful pages in a TMNT comic ever, where it's just the water that has been tinted red from all of the blood, and falling into the darkness of the depths of the water is his sigh.
Right.
And it is a gorgeous page, just gorgeous, and just really like a perfect ending for him.
I lost
really.
his side. You can get it back.
Yeah. And then I think, what does issue 2 end with the reveal that April still has? No. No, that comes later.
You find out about Casey and everything at the beginning. The end of book 2, I think, isn't it
Isn't
that
what
the
you find out?
Karai is still alive?
I know. I thought
alive?
it was that April is alive, but she's missing an arm and a leg.
That's not at the end of it. That's like in the middle. 'Cause
That's
the middle,
in
okay.
that's in that issue. Yeah.
Because then you're wondering like, what happened to her arm and her leg? You know, because you're like, oh, she's you know. And then you start thinking like, what happened to Casey? Because they keep talking Casey in like the past tense. But they also talk about Casey in the present tense. So you're like, what's going on? And that's when you find out they had a kid.
Yeah, so the second issue actually ends with April going into a like a safe.
Right.
And opening a safe, and she pulls out the dislocated, severed head of Fugitoid.
Oh.
Doesn't she kind of refer to it as like the ultimate weapon they're going to need? Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's like, but this is our ultimate weapon we're going to need to end this all, and it's
I don't
Fugitoid's
think
head.
I've ever thought of Fugitoid as a weapon.
Well, the way they write him is you find out like he's a computer program, and it's a very high tech world, and he's got alien tech that's advanced and everything else.
That makes sense.
Well,
there's one person alive who wants that tech.
Yeah, and it's Baxter style.
and that's when you get into issue 3, where it's like you get to see what happened with Baxter.
Oh, jeez.
And Baxter, boy,
man.
in both the current timeline and the fall time,
He's a bastard.
he already looked weird in the falling era.
Right.
And had already done stuff to himself, but boy, by the time you get to the current storyline, he's
cyborg.
He's more machine than man
Yeah,
now.
he's very cyborg.
So he never went fly?
No, that was just in the comic, or just in the cartoon,
I
rather.
thought he
Yeah.
went fly in the IDW.
And I thought he cured himself from that.
No, he didn't go fly in the IDW books. He had a fly robot suit that he had worn at one point in time. But I don't think he ever actually did the mutation. Now I think he may have mutated a few other people, but no, the mutated fly thing really comes from the cartoon.
Sure, yeah. I always thought that they incorporated the IDW.
They've incorporated in the aspect that he had the
You know,
fly
you know
suit.
Deathlock?
Yeah.
The character, picture that Baxter style.
Okay.
Very much like that. Very machine,
yeah.
very
Yeah.
not like deformed is a better way to put it, like scarred up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ringer.
He's Borgish.
Yeah, he's very
Yeah,
like I
very
said, he's very
Borgish.
Borgish.
Yeah.
And he's very tech guy.
Borg.
If only. The Wazer takedown.
So he in the fall timeline, you learn that he is trying to get his hands on the Fugitoid.
Yep.
And so while
Makes sense.
Yeah.
while there's no real exact alliance between the Foot and Baxter, they work together where needed.
It's an uneasy alliance.
It's an uneasy alliance where needed,
Yeah.
but they don't really like each other. So it's almost like the turtles are stuck on two fronts.
Yep.
Sure.
And that's the issue then, where you get that backstory where you find out what happens with Casey and Leo in
April.
Huh?
And April.
Well, and April, and
yeah.
how April lost her limbs. Yeah.
So yeah, we go into the next issue then.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
So because like that fight where it's Leo and Casey kind of leading the charge, and Casey's using standard weapon.
Sure.
And then he goes. They send in the Mausers or like weird Mausers.
There's all
There's some
kinds of
robotic-
like
yeah.
updated Mausers
Sure,
and
Right,
stuff.
and
that-
these things are flying, and Leo's cutting him in half with his swords, and Casey starts losing weaponry, and he's just like, dude, these ain't cutting it, and he finds this like 10-pound sledgehammer, and he goes, this is my new favorite, and he picks up and starts going to town, and you're just like, they're turning the tide, and they don't.
I will say that there's a great moment in that fight. I don't know if you guys picked it up. That was a nice little callback to fans of the movie, where they're fighting and a weapon gets knocked out of Casey's hand. He goes, "Oh yeah," and he pulls out a cricket bat and he goes, "How about cricket?"
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
neat. That's cool.
It's like
That's-
what I said, he was going through his arsenal, and he
That's
started
neat.
losing his arsenal.
Yeah,
and
but I
he
think
finds
that
the sledgehammer.
specifically
Oh, yeah, that
cricket
was a throwback.
yeah,
No,
that was
nice
an
right.
Easter
Oh,
egg
yeah.
for
The OG fans.
Yeah, so while this is going on, the war has like officially begun.
Yeah.
So it's all Team Turtles, like even their foot soldiers,
Yep.
versus all Team Foot.
Sure.
With their foot soldiers.
No, that's it. No, I know. It's
But yeah,
redundant.
it's like
yeah, that's
it's
it.
it's the fight.
They're the foot with their Foot Clan.
And what are they called? Leo and Casey are the vanguard, the back guard.
Is that, yeah.
Oh,
they have a special name, you're right?
Yeah, they
Yeah.
did have a name, and I
They're the
forget.
guys that
but
stay
yeah.
behind to make sure everything goes off without a hitch.
Yep.
And everything is going well. They're doing well until Stockman releases the Mausers, and he releases
Mm-hmm.
all the
Mausers.
Mausers.
I'm not talking a couple hundred.
Yeah,
Sure.
everything.
Yeah.
And Fugitoid's like, I would rather die than let you have me.
Yeah.
So Baxter's like, your wish is my command, and he explodes the 1,000 Mausers
Yeah.
in all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just goes, that's it. Boom. And then that's when you see,
It all explodes, and again,
only thing left is like a sword and a mask.
another beautiful splash page. I again, one of our one-shot issue reviews, we talked about the Shield Rob Liefeld book, and we talked about how the book was pretty much nothing but splash pages, which is ridiculous, and that is lazy from a writer and an artist, unless it's a gimmick like the death of Superman, in which case, okay, I understand why you did that.
But these are
but
super
these
well done.
are well done and poignant.
And no words. It's literally a picture speaks 1,000 words.
Yeah. The
Here.
splash pages that show their death is
But
perfect.
I'm noticing that they haven't shown any body.
And they don't. Well,
No.
in this case, they were permanently vaporized.
So that means they're...
They do show the body of Raph.
Yeah, they do show
Like,
the body around.
It's cute what
Yeah.
what Doc said, but like, yeah, you see it.
Mm-hmm.
No, you see it, and it hurts the soul when you
Yeah.
see it. Cause you see
Oh,
the
you mean
lifeless
like
body.
before the Psy falls?
Yeah.
You mean,
Yeah, you see the lifeless
Yeah, you
body.
see
You see it
him
not
get
moving.
yeah.
This is because they're covered in rubble, and it's also to kind of
Sure.
because Michelangelo's kind of there, but he's leaving too. And so at the place are Casey, Leo, Fugitoid, and April. And when the building blows, Michael thinks they're all dead,
Right.
Yeah.
not knowing April just got blown back. You know what I
She
mean?
got
Just
blown and partially
messed
blown
up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's when after they go through that part, like the next pages, you see April like putting her arm and leg back on when she gets out of bed.
And it's that moment that Mikey is like, okay, I need to go to find Splinter and Donnie because they're going to meet Hiroto to broker this
Right.
peace deal
They
that
flew.
is,
They
yeah.
flew over there and he hasn't heard from him in a while.
So he's like, that's all I got left. Everybody else is dead. I got to go there now.
But you realize too, he didn't know April was alive till like that moment.
Yeah.
He's like, if I would have known you were alive, I would have looked.
That's what I mean. He
forward.
thinks that all four of
he
them
thought,
died.
Yeah, for like
Yeah,
15 years, he
understandable.
thought April
Yeah.
was like, or whatever.
16.
16. Well, I know, but I don't know if he didn't find her in the 16th year because a couple years.
Yeah.
I assume they don't tell you the exact timeline, but for at least 15 to 16 years, he assumed April was dead and was like, I do have family out there. That's awesome.
Yeah. And
He thought everyone was just bullshit.
And we also haven't really touched on Casey,
Yeah.
the daughter.
yes, I was just
Yeah.
going to say that's where you learn
April
more
named
about
the daughter
Casey. Yeah.
Casey in honor of obviously Casey.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so you get to know a little bit more about Casey, the daughter, and not a whole lot, but I mean, you get to find out that it was after the explosion that April discovers that she was pregnant. She didn't even know.
I figured it was
So,
like that.
Though I love the way Mikey meets Casey. He's on the streets fighting,
what is that, issue
beating
1,
the
I
crap.
think?
Yeah.
Issue 1.
Yeah, he's beating the crap out of some foot soldiers, and all of a sudden just goes. I think they yell Casey Jones, and like Mikey's like stops and punches, like Casey Jones, and then he's looking around like where, and then like he's kind of getting hit, and he sees like some girl run off, and he was like, what? Like,
Well, doesn't he steal her bike or something
Yeah, he steals
too?
a motorcycle too. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then later on he finds out, and he's like, oh, whoops.
Yeah.
Like, not bad, but it's just funny because he literally like mid punch, like he was just like, what?
Yeah.
I'm like interesting.
So is that Casey Jones that's on the cover of Doc's issue 1 there?
Yes.
That's
that's her,
issue
yeah.
5, but
That's
yeah,
issue
that's
five.
That's her.
that is her with like the little domino mask.
Yeah.
You find out that she's been doing some mixed martial arts. She's not that great at it. And
Yeah,
like he's like, I'm gonna take you under my wing.
Also, there's a small tease. I don't remember if it's this or the next issue where April gets Mikey's blood.
yes.
To,
She's when
test it.
Mikey gets hurt and all that fighting, and April April's in the lair, so she's kind of nurturing him back to health. Sorry, I can't say that word. And when she's doing that, she's like taking some blood, and that's when and doing like some tests to make sure like what's going on with him.
So what's the hook on this one?
The hook is that you find out that Casey and April, who have now kind of taken over the old turtle lair. They live in the old turtle lair now,
Okay.
Yeah.
in the sewers, and they kind of. I don't want to say they run the underground resistance.
They're a big part of it.
But they're
high up.
at
They're kind of
the very
Princess Leia.
least.
And
Yeah.
Han Solo in this.
And you find out that April has been waiting for the right moment and been building an arsenal, including a new turtle tank.
Yeah, they took Turtle Van and upgraded it.
Yeah.
Like Gears of War.
But
so.
if it's really cool because in the picture, like in the background, you can see the old turtle van and stuff. It's all sitting around in the lair.
There's a lot of Easter eggs.
So that's kind of, and you also discover that at this point, Hiroto is upset that his guys were not able to take out Mikey in the first issue,
He's so pissed.
and so now it's on. It's like, no, I want to wipe him out.
I believe he's killing the generals as the issue goes. Like each general has one issue
that
to
failed
kill the turtle,
Yeah.
and at the end of the issue, like okay, and then the next issue starts with a new
So
general.
is he kind of like unhinged, like
He's obsessed.
Kylo Ren, or
Yeah, a little bit. But
He's like a combination of Kylo and Joffrey, I want to say.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah,
spoiled,
He's spoiled rotten.
but like
tons of power,
he's
tons
got
of money.
He's not unskilled in what
not.
he does. He's just
He's also a little more imbalanced than
Yes.
both of them because I mean, there's that whole sequence in issue 3 where he's like standing on top of the
where he's like
and he's in the rain and he's like going nuts.
He's almost like Homelander from The Boys and the TV
A little
show.
bit.
Like, he's
A little
very
bit
much
at
like that.
times,
Like,
yeah.
I own this city, and it's just like,
Yeah.
oh yikes.
he's definitely got an entitled sense that
Yes.
Yeah.
is unearned.
So then issue 4, when you start issue 4, you're in the middle of the battle. Like we've already jumped ahead a
stop
couple
this
weeks.
battle.
They
The reason
they
for
decided.
Fugitoid-
Oh yes,
Yeah,
sorry,
they
yes,
decided,
I forgot about that.
I'm gonna call them the rebellion, the underground, whatever. They decided that, hey man, the key to taking everything down, let's go after Baxter. Because we can stop Baxter, we stop technology. We stop technology, that stops most of the foots on patrol. That cuts out the power to his building. And then they're like, well, what if he decides to come to their aid? And they're like, we doubt it's an uneasy truce, and that'd be the very last step that he would do is ask for help. So we should be able to take him out.
And they also know that Professor Honeycutt, is like his consciousness is likely still in
Yes.
whatever's left of Fugitoid,
Right.
just
And-
like dormant.
But they were able to turn on Fugitoid and knew it worked. And that's where they're like, we have the upper hand now. Because Fugitoid's like, I want revenge.
yeah, sure.
So they're like, okay, that's our secret weapon, let's go. And what's funny when you read the book,
We
There's-
the secret weapon.
well, no, well, you say it like that, but in the book, literally they'll have the general like, okay, guys, we're going to breach the front door, it should be easy. And then it cuts to the panel where they're like, this is not easy, this is
Yeah.
all going bad. And he's
Yeah.
like, we can't get to the front door, we've got these 4 other exits that we can do north, south, east, and west. Should be able to blow up with our like, whatever, demolitions. And Mikey's like, we don't have enough demolitions to blow up any of these doors. And then he's just like, and the turrets shouldn't really be a problem. Mikey's like, these turrets are cutting us apart. So everything's just going south.
Yeah.
And then you see a cool scene where Mikey like hops up and takes out a turret with Leo's sword. Because when Mikey goes into battle, he carries a sai,
Sure,
a
I figured.
nunchuck,
Yeah.
a bow staff, and a sword. As a true like Ronin.
And I will say too that sequence is nice because obviously The Last Ronin, it's gonna be a dark book.
Oh, yeah.
It's gonna be a dark book, but in that sequence you start to get a little bit of that lighter stuff from the older Turtle stuff. It's like, okay, it is still a Turtles book.
Yep.
We are still having a little bit of fun, even if the fun is dark.
Well, and before like the fight, he's training with Casey because he sees her like punch him
Yeah.
bag, and he sneaks up behind her, and she's like, "Oh, you scared me," and he's like, "Yeah, Ninja Master."
Yep.
Like obvious. And then she's like, "I know how to fight." Like they kind of have a conversation where I know how to fight, and he's like, "No, you don't." And then she's like, he's like, "Go ahead and try to attack me with your best blow." And then she goes at him, and of course he just like mops the floor with her.
And
That's when and he's being typical Mikey, like
Yeah.
making fun of her the whole way, like, "Oh yeah, that kick would be really cool if you were in like an action movie."
And then there's the one point where he throws her up against the wall,
Yeah.
and he goes, "Hey, be careful of those stones. This
Yeah, they're-
cellar is this sewer's old."
Yeah, he's like, "This story's really old." She's like, "Much like you," and he's like,
Yeah.
"They'll kinda kick your
Watch
butt."
out for those
Yeah.
stones.
Like, yeah, they're really old, and it's typical Mikey, which you love, because you're like, "Oh, Mikey's still kind of in there."
Yeah. So she officially takes him on, and he takes her on, and now Mikey has become a sensei.
Yeah, Mikey's sensei.
You know.
Yep.
So issue 4 is a lot of prepping for the fight, but the big thing is
Oh, you also find out about the story of Splinter. And
I was
Donnie.
just gonna say the big thing is that you learn about what happened with Splinter and Donnie. So
And you find out Splinter's clan over in Japan is still like around
Oh, yeah.
kicking a samurai, and like they're
Yeah.
super highly trained.
So-
Which is awesome.
So Splinter and Donnie, back right after the explosion and everything, they're going to meet with Hiroto to broker the peace deal, and then during the 16 years, Mikey goes there to try and find them,
Yeah.
and comes across some of the other members of the clan, and they're like, sit down, we have to
Well,
tell
he
you what
meets with them.
happened.
He meets with them like
With the new,
master.
yeah, and he's like, I gotta tell you something.
And the best part about all that is that he's sitting there, and Mikey knows the protocol and breaks it all because he's so upset.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's like, I know Mr. Splinter told me patience, let them talk to you, have tea. And as soon as it's down, he's just like, "Where's Splinter
Yeah.
and Donnie?" And the guy's like, like,
Yeah.
And he tells him, and he's just like, there are legends, there are heroes. There's like extreme bravery. There's something else. He's like, Master Splinter was all
of the above.
And then he tells
Yeah.
a story about how they landed, tried to broker the deer, and they got betrayed, and that whole awesome fight.
Yeah,
So-
there was never a
There was never a
brief-
peace.
Oh,
I
deal.
figured
It
that.
was all because even Donnie's just like, "Master Splinter, you trust him?" He goes, "If I trust him, I'm going to brought weapons."
Yeah.
Because Splinter
It-
has a sword and Donnie has his bow staff.
And they're outnumbered. So Donnie
Yeah.
and Splinter and
it was 3 or 4.
yeah,
samurai warriors
they
or
go to meet, and when they get there, they learn that Hiroto has kind of stood him up in a sense.
He sent a guy.
He sent a guy, yeah.
Yeah, he sent
And
a
so
guy.
they're like, "Oh, well, this is already bad." And then he comes in out of nowhere wearing what I thought was kind of cool. It was kind of like an updated,
like samurai armor.
well, it was like an updated samurai shredder.
Yeah.
Like
Very
the helmet was
shredder-like.
very, almost super shredder like.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Moxman
immediately,
sends all his soldiers to go wipe them out.
and they immediately know, Splinter and Donnie immediately know, well, this just went, south, and so they immediately start fighting.
Yeah,
But a scene in the book that got me unnerved was that, like, throughout all the turtle stuff you read, Splinter's always been pretty, like, non-combatant, non-violent in a way. Like,
Yeah.
he can do karate and stuff, but he's always been kind of, like, non-violent. And this one, as soon as he finds out he'd been betrayed, he immediately cuts the head off of 3 samurais. The 3
Well,
listener guys.
it
Like,
isn't-
instantly, he's just, like, one swipe, and he's like, it's on now. And
It
I'm
isn't.
like,
It isn't
"Oh."
even just that. In that moment, right before that, I think it is. They tell him, "Oh, you're not going to get word from New York," and that's how Splinter and
Yeah.
Donnie learn
That's right.
about what happened
The
to
attack.
Leo and Casey
It
and
was a
everybody.
two-prong attack.
And as far as they know, Mikey was part of it,
Yeah,
so
he's
they don't
there
even
too.
know. They think Mikey's gone
They
too.
think
So,
they're it.
so of course Splinter snaps because
Yeah,
he
he's
thinks.
pissed.
All of his
And
content.
he even tells Donnie, who again uses a bow staff and it's like non-lethal, to be like, he goes, "Don't hold back."
Yeah, and in fact, in that moment,
Yeah.
he even says to Hiroto, he says, "Well, then I have nothing else left to lose."
Yep. And he's a man on a mission.
And
now.
they get
brutal. And
they
like
get-
Donnie
yeah.
for having a bow stab is like murdering guys. Like he's hitting them in the neck, and I'm like,
Yeah.
that's a lethal blow. And it's so.
and
brutal.
what they get killed with the.
Well, they
the-
get super close to, I can't ever pronounce his name.
Hiroto.
Yeah, Hiroto and some of his guys, and that's Hiroto just goes, "Bring out the archers." And they bring out rows of
Yeah.
archers, and they fire. And at that moment, they see the archers come forward. Donnie and the other samurai go, "Master Splinter, we need to fall back. One of our guys is hurt." And Splinter's like, "There's no going back." And so they fire, and then you see Donnie is covered with like arrows in front of Splinter. Like he sacrificed himself for Splinter. You see Splinter kind of get hit with like a couple. And then you're just like, oh, and that's just like gut wrenching. Like,
Oh,
you're
it's
like,
a
my
man,
God.
it's a yeah.
And then Splinter makes one last
Yeah,
like is like
one last ditch
because
effort.
like Hiroto's like I'm gonna kill you blah blah
Yeah.
blah and like then Splinter's like come on then let's fucking go 1-on-1. He's like I'm coming.
He runs. No, he runs. The other guy runs
and then,
away.
Yeah, and then he's like and arrows, but do the arrows a couple times
Yeah.
because you see Donnie die Like
Yeah.
when you
Like,
see
yeah,
him in
Donnie's
the arrows,
dead.
dead.
And here he got stabbed a couple times.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So he was already
Yeah.
bleeding, and he was already like,
Yeah.
this is it for me. And Splinter's like, keep fighting.
Yeah,
And
and
right
then-
before Splinter goes out, though, he takes his sword and he like chucks it, and it goes right into the guy's shoulder. And you're just like, damn, so close to a lethal blow that he's got to fall back.
Yeah.
But like that whole battle, I was just like, oh, it's gut wrenching.
This is also the issue where we find out about Casey, the alive
Yeah,
one.
the daughter
Yes.
Casey. Yeah.
Because there's a small like story that it's kind of like what's the right? It's like a misdirect, where Mikey realizes that Casey is enhanced, and he's like, "You took my blood. What did you do with it?" Implying that maybe she put it in Casey, but it's not. It's
And it's pretty much a fight between April and Mikey about that.
yeah, well,
a
it's
little
an
bit of a-
argument.
yeah,
It's,
yeah.
it's not a
I
fight.
say
Fight
Yeah.
as in like a couple
Yeah.
fight where he's like, "What'd you do with it?" And she was like, "You really think I would take your blood and like contaminate my daughter?" She goes, "You have to realize that both, me and Casey were around you guys for so long that you guys contaminated us." And Mikey was like, "Our mutagen contaminated you guys," and then made him feel really bad.
Yeah.
Because he was like, "Oh, this is our
so
fault."
like Spider-Man and MJ and Spider-Man Reign.
Yes.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
can't
very,
mention
yeah.
that because
Yeah, and then that ended up biologically passing to Casey, so she's born that way, and it's just some accelerated healing and strength, right?
Yeah.
It's not like it's anything major.
No, but she did punch her like a brick wall.
Yeah.
when she got mad.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. So that's
Who hasn't?
yeah,
Right.
right, yeah. So that's kind of issue 4, and then the hook on the end of issue 5 isn't really any kind of a reveal necessarily, or 4 rather, yeah, isn't necessarily a reveal of any kind so much as I guess it is the end of Baxter. I did forget about
yeah.
that.
It's the end of Baxter, and the power
They-
goes out in
Yes.
Newfoot, York.
Okay.
Yeah.
The way they do it is they pretty much give Baxter Fugitoid's head, and Baxter's like, "Oh, I finally got it," and Fugitoid's like, "Wrong," and like EMPs himself.
It's basically
Baxter.
Independence Day.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah,
Hey boys,
yeah.
I'm back, and then boom.
Yeah.
And you see Baxter like blow up. Like I mean,
Nice.
like Fugitoid's, I'm taking every ounce of him out with me.
Good.
Yeah.
And so then the hook at the end of issue 4 is them saying, "Yay, we got the battle, but the war is not over." And it's
Yeah.
just basically the hook of, "Hey, guess what? Next issue is the finale."
It's the
You
beginning
know.
it's the beginning of the end.
Yeah. So now Pistol and Smurfy, you guys are going to have to
over.
take over here because this will all be new territory for me.
So the last issue is kind of like them setting up the fight, and then the fight happening.
But it's also the after effects of the
okay.
Baxter fight.
Good recap.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and like,
Yeah.
well, the after effects is that they flat out are told, they're like, "Hey, comms are back up." Great, like what a coincidence. And then that the comms are back up, and they're like, all the robot guards are going down, and the whole city's rebellion and rioting. And so the rebels are like, "Hey, cool, well, people on our side." And they find out, no, because these people are more about anarchy. And even some of their own soldiers are like, "Hey, man, forget this war. Let's just go burn stuff." And then you're like, "Oh, this is definitely going to be a slimmer fight than the Baxter fight."
Okay.
And this is where Mikey kind of tells off the brothers too. He's like,
Oh.
you've
Yeah.
been here this whole time. Now it's my time.
Yeah.
Fuck off."
Yeah, because they each have their own way of handling it.
Yeah.
Because like Leo's like, "Hey man, Mikey, like you guys should regroup and go in strong." Rather than, "No man, just charge in headstrong." And Donnie's like, "Hey man, kind of use your brain a little bit more." And Mikey was like, "Hey, you guys had your chance. It's go time. I'm going."
Yeah.
And
then-
he goes.
Yeah, and
he
then
doesn't
the-
tell anyone, he just goes.
And then
Okay.
the rest of the issue is kind of the raid.
Yeah.
Where he
And
goes up through the tower fighting everyone to get through there. And then he finally fights New Shredder, which is what I'll call him.
There's a couple cool fights, but like
There's like a
pre-boss fights.
giant guy,
Yeah, there's
yeah.
a giant guy with an awesome sword that he's got to take out, and,
Yeah.
and pretty much very, very video game esque, but fun.
Yes, the mini boss.
The subplot is that when all that happens, when Baxter goes down, it kills the power. The layer's flooding.
Oh.
And the layers are underground base, which you find out has more than just like April. It has like civilians in there and people they were protecting. So it's starting to flood bad. And April goes down there and she goes, "We didn't take care of any of these pumps. We can't get the water out." So now they're like, "Where's Mikey?" And Mikey's go off to fight the bad guys. So now you're kind of like beat the clock. So Casey has to decide if she goes and help out Mikey or if she go help out her mom, but can't find her mom, can't get her mom on comms. Goes to the layer's flooding. She's like, "I need to get underwater." One of her soldiers like, "Here, take this walkie. It's waterproof." And she goes, and when she's diving into the water and run out of air, she finds April there trying to repair the pumps underwater with an oxygen tank. So April gives her air, like, boom, and she's like, "Oh, God." So then those two together are sharing air, fixing the pumps,
Okay.
and Mikey's, like, storming the castle.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, of course, spoiler, they get him to work, and the water's going down, everyone's safe now, because the soldiers, in the meantime, were in waist-high water trying to get civilians out. Like, Casey was like,
That's
"Hey,
exciting.
yeah, you guys get the civilians out, I'm going to go do this. Where's my mom? Can't find her.
Talk about ticking
Where's Mikey?"
clock stuff, yeah.
Mikey's gone. oh my god, so she's pissed Mikey left without her, because he's like, my sensei went without me, that sucks. And then, then like the final boss fight happens.
Yeah. And he looks essentially like a Power Ranger villain, I want to say.
It's a combination.
He looks cool, but
He puts on a Tron suit.
Yeah.
For the lack of a better term.
Like a Shredder-style
It's like
Tron
and you
suit.
find out that very much like Iron Man, it's actually nanotech.
Oh, okay.
And so he can conform it to
That
look like
makes
Shredder.
sense.
So he
Yeah,
has
okay.
Shredder gauntlets and like the Shredder mask. And as Mikey's beating him up in the final fight, he actually goes through each weapon one at a time. Like he stabs him in the hand with Raph's side, and he's like, "That's compliments of Raphael." and
fun.
he pulls the
Oh,
sai
sure,
out.
of course, yeah.
And because the sai's his hand, and he grabs the sai, pulls out, and he goes, "You think that little toy's gonna stop me?" And then like the wound heals. So now Mikey's like, "Oh crap, the nanotech can actually heal him." But he keeps going. Like he takes Leo's sword and shoves it in his kidney and kicks the sword into him. And he's like, "That's compliments of Leonardo," and you're just like, "Oh man, like." It's the beginning and the end.
Boy, that's gonna hurt when he sticks the bow staff inside him.
Well, the bow staff, he cracks over his head and it breaks in half. Like, he cracks the guy so hard, the bow staff completely just breaks.
And this is where you find out Hiroto's got a real god complex.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of teased
says it.
before. Yeah, he's like, I am a
I'm
god.
a god. He's like,
Oh,
he's
so
like,
he really
you
goes-
foolish turtle, I am a god. You cannot, he goes
Okay.
full, like,
Okay.
he goes full Xerxes from
Yeah.
300.
Okay.
And it's a slobber knocker. Like, they're
Yeah.
down there, they're in the city. Like, they fight in, like, 4 different areas.
Yeah,
like,
it's
the city, the tower.
Well, it's a tower first, and then they get knocked out.
streets.
And as they're falling, like, they're literally falling out of the tower, Michelangelo goes, "This is really going to hurt." And they land in a water tower, and it kind of cushions the blow. And he goes, "Oh, cool. Nothing's broken. Well, nothing major, at least." And then you see the other guy get up, and he goes, "Oh, come on." And then, like, they're still fighting, and then they end up on the streets, and then they end up in the sewer, sort of, and they get pumped out into, like, the river of mud. Yeah, so, like, that fight is lasting a long time. And Mike even goes, "I'm getting winded. I'm getting exhausted."
Kind of like a
Just won't
serious version of the Peter Chicken fight, I guess.
Yeah, more or less. But
Yeah.
and Mike even knows, like,
All right.
Mikey gets hurt, and Mikey's bleeding.
Yeah,
So he has
yeah.
to rip off the Ronin attire and, like, wrap himself up. And
Sure,
he's just
to-
like,
to
and he
cut-
goes,
yeah.
"I don't think I'm going to win this fight." And you're just like, "Oh, shit."
And then, like, you know, there's times where, like, I think there's 2 times where Hiroto, like, does the cowards thing where he's
Yeah.
like, oh, you win,
surrender.
you
Yeah, he-
win.
Oh.
And then, like,
He
Mikey's like,
transforms.
no. He's like, you know,
That's,
sigh.
yeah, that's
the
what, that's
typical
like,
80s bad guy movie.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why he cuts him in the side, and Mikey's bleeding real bad because he cuts him right where there are, like, no shells.
Yeah.
So,
So, yeah, like, again, like, it's this thing where, like, if this were one-on-one, Mikey just clobbers him. He needs the suit to
Yep.
win,
And
and he
tricks.
needs the tricks. Sure. But without those, like...
Mikey
There's
got
just
him.
no-
Mikey's got
yeah.
him.
I mean, maybe, like, Mikey spars with him for, like, a minute and then murders him. But, like, yeah, this guy is...
He's a bitch.
Yeah.
The only part I didn't get, there was a part where Mikey has, like, a hand grenade. He's got a device in his hand, and he, like, gives it to him, and it blows up, but it really doesn't do anything. It's like, to me, it was
Compliments
kind
of
of
Dom.
weird.
Is that the smoke bomb where
See,
he
could've
tries
been-
to get,
maybe
like,
this was it.
like, advantage on it?
I was say he uses the
Because he's
smoke
got
bomb,
some smoke bomb.
in
Yeah.
some of the earlier
And maybe it was
issues.
see, maybe it was a
So
smoke bomb, but the way I guess the way they drew it when I was reading it, I thought it was more like an explosion, but maybe it was just like a smoke bomb.
I mean, it could just be because
Yeah,
he even
'cause it
says
happens, like-
in one of the earlier issues, he even says that
Yeah,
like
one of those-
I go old school with this, and he throws a smoke bomb down. So it could just
Okay,
be
could have just smoke bomb.
throwback
I mean,
to
that
that.
makes more sense why it didn't do any damage because I was like,
Plus a callback to him.
Yeah, right, yeah.
but yeah.
So I'm gonna assume, even having not read it, but just understanding how storytelling works, I'm going to assume, Hiroto is defeated, and my guess is not without
Mikey dying.
not without a consequence.
Hiroto's defeated. April rolls up just in time to see Mikey pretty much take his last breath with Casey at his side, and she's kind of crying like my sensei's gone. You do see a body. They even draw the heartbeat. So you see the heartbeat flatline, and you're like, man. And then they actually have 2 like ending kind of like
epilogues?
Yeah. And one is Mikey in heaven reunited, and that's the last 2 pages where you're just like,
That's
totally
the page
awesome.
that got me.
Yeah,
And that's
the page
what-
that made me tear up. And it's because Mikey wakes up in bed, and his 3 brothers are like, "Hey, man, you're gonna be late. Let's go. We're already running late." And he's like, "Late for what?"
And
'Cause
they've
again,
kind of already teased it in, like, 2 other issues where Mikey's close to death.
Yeah.
Right before... Oh, we didn't even talk about Mikey's attempted,
his,
called?
yeah.
Suicide.
In the
Harakati.
Yes.
in the first issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's there, and then there's another time where, like, you only see them, like... You see this setup, but you only see it for, like, 2 panels, maybe. Now here's the full one. And then you find out what April's doing with the blood. They have 4 new baby turtles.
yeah, the very, very end, the very last page is
Awesome.
that Casey runs over to her like a glass jar, and she goes, "You guys need to hurry up. I have so much to teach you." And there's 4 baby turtles in this glass jar.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the moment that you guys were saying kind of leads to the idea that it's not a broken psychosis for him, but that it's more ghosts and spirits. Yeah,
That's-
okay, cool.
And that's why it said more like ghosts, is because like it's just a whole like 2-page spread of them talking
So-
to the turtles on the rooftop with everyone, like with all of our heroes.
So I know that this is getting a little bit ahead, but have you guys heard about the fact that they have announced almost a sequel of sorts to Last Ronin that is coming out, I think, next year in 2023? I thought I had read that it was a prequel, like it was going to be.
It almost have to be.
But I don't understand what the point is, because we get that in the Last Ronin. We get the whole
Maybe
story.
it's not a prequel. Maybe it's about those 4 new turtles.
Maybe it is. I didn't
See,
know. That's why I was
like,
going to
it
be a
could
question.
be-
Did you guys hear about anything?
I haven't heard anything yet.
No,
but I mean,
I haven't.
If they do a prequel, I can maybe see they're gonna give us more detail, but then that seems kind of boring.
It seemed like
what more
we've already
detail?
got that story. We got that in
already
this,
have
yeah.
everyone's ending. I don't care about
Yeah.
the beginning of the ending. So
Yeah.
you could do maybe the next 4 turtles grow up, but then you're really gonna have to like advance in years.
Yeah, but then you basically have like Ninja Turtles 2099 then.
Yeah.
You've got the future Turtles,
yeah.
you know,
Right.
which would be really freaking cool to have. Well, no matter what,
Says it's coming out this year, end of the year.
it says it's coming out
should
at
have
the
already-
end of, okay.
That's probably already in the
And it
works.
does say on there a sequel, so I guess it
Okay.
will be about
Okay.
Casey training the
The 4 new
new
ones?
4, yeah. So that's, I mean, you know, obviously we've talked about all of, like, specific moments in that, but I think for me, my overall review on the whole thing, now that we've kind of dissected it here, is that it's well worth any money that you spend. If you want single issues, variants, hardcover, it's one of the few things where you're going to get your money's worth out of each issue.
Okay.
And while it tells a complete story full of exposition and gives you all the info that you need, it's never slow. There is never a moment that's like, I got to get through these pages because it's exposition. They balance the action with the exposition with all of the minor storylines so incredibly well. And there's still a lot of questions. So having a sequel would make sense.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's still a lot, you know, like, we don't really know about anybody from Dimension X.
Right.
We don't know anything about those
If
guys.
they survived or what.
We don't know anything about any of the other mutants, either
or side
Bebop or
characters,
Rocksteady
right, or side characters.
Triceratons.
or the Triceratons or the Mutanimals, you know? Or
I think
about Mondo
there's
Gecko?
a line or two where they say that Hiroto purged Newfoot City.
He did.
Of all
He
the
did.
mutants, and that's
Yeah.
why he built the wall.
he did,
Yeah, he
yes. But we don't know who all that incorporates.
Maybe
That's
that's
true.
the sequel could be the Purge.
And Purge is very, very vague. That could be he killed them all or he drove them out of town.
Exactly.
Could be.
It just means they're gone.
Right.
but
And
how-
when you
how-
have, you know, when you've got a device written into your lore like Dimension X, how many of them escaped? You know,
Right,
did
right.
did the Krang somehow come and capture? Like, are mutants now being held prisoner in Dimension X? You know, I mean, where's Leatherhead? Is Slash still around? We don't know.
what happened to Shredder?
Well, he's dead.
Well, Shredder's dead.
Dead. Well,
Yeah,
well,
they
that's-
say that at one point.
I know.
They do
But
say.
again, yeah, they don't. I guess. old
Although I
age,
guess he's
right.
died twice in the
That's what I'm
IDW
saying.
series, so
How?
he could come back.
This is off the Mirage series. He died in the first issue.
Right.
That's
what I was
true.
wondering-
That's
what I was
true.
wondering if
Yeah.
it was that the story they're going with, because you really don't know what storyline they're following.
That's I think my only complaint is that I could not officially tell which exact launch it fits in with,
Right.
because the only thing I could tell was that it does not fit with IDW.
Right.
I just assumed it's an Elseworld, and that makes
Could
it
be.
simpler. Like, it just
Could very well be.
just an Elseworld. Like that
Or
way
what-
you don't
or
have
what
to
if,
worry. Yeah.
Right. Like, what if this was the end?
And honestly, if they're going to do a sequel, it could almost be like 2099, where it's like, okay, this is an alternate Elseworld future timeline,
Yeah,
and
right.
you know. So anyway, those are my overall thoughts. Pistol, Smurphy.
So I really loved it. I understand the trope of the hero dying in the end.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like it. I didn't like it in Logan, and I don't like it here. I feel there's more to gain from him completing the mission and then staying alive and being lost for a minute again and finding his new purpose in teaching Casey and these new turtles and like slowly going into a S'mores Master Splinter role.
See, that's the sequel right there. Sequel is Mikey survives, right? And then he's just like, how do I train these like either Ninja
Yeah.
Turtles? How do I train Kate?
He could have.
What do I do? Because now my mission in life to revenge my fallen brothers is successful. It's over.
Yeah.
Now what's my
But
purpose in
At
life?
the end of the book, we know he's dead.
I know, and I'm saying
Yeah.
like, your thought. I prefer that better.
So that's
As
what
a
I
sequel.
like. I like that better. Dying is easy, living is hard.
Right.
Like that's my always belief. Like there are some times where a hero's death is justified, and I do appreciate those, and I do like those. But like I said, with Logan in this, when there's more for a hero to do, dying is easy, living is hard.
I agree with that.
Again, like, and that's a small nitpick. Like,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
understand. I understand his death more than I do Logan's death. So like, I get it.
And those are just my two nitpicks. Like, what storylines does follow, right? And then like the ending. Like, yeah, it was kind of easy. Like, we kind of knew it was coming. To me, it was kind of easy, sort of cop out. Like, oh, he's dead now. Now what?
But overall, like you don't.
Overall,
Yeah.
it's 5 stars that we'll read again.
Yeah, I definitely will probably look into either a hardcover or paperback and pick it up and reread.
I have 8 issues of a 5-issue miniseries. That should tell you about
Yeah,
this book,
yeah.
right? Like,
Dragonus, after going through that, hearing our thoughts, hearing kind of like a cliff notes of the thing, you know, where are you at on it? I mean, we all know that you were interested in it, but now where are you at with it?
Well, now that I know everything, I don't want to read it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
No, I do want to read it because I want to experience the fight scenes
Yeah.
and all that, and I would actually love to see this as like an animated movie or something.
right? I know. I was thinking that today.
I believe Nika's even made a Last Ronin figure, which
NECA.
I say it how I want to say it.
That's wrong, but yeah.
They have, and
I ordered it
also,
already.
and we will, for those of you out there who don't already follow us on all of our social medias, you will want to do so now, because if you didn't know about this, we will share it on all of our social medias. There is a short, and I think it's a CG animated fan film of The Last Ronin.
Oh, I didn't even know
That
that.
is it is. I've seen pieces of it and stills, and it is almost theatrical Hollywood quality. It is fantastic. So, poll listers, be sure to follow us. You know the game, which is why we didn't hit you with it before. But now you definitely want to follow us on all of our social medias so that you can find that fan film when we share it on our pages. Because agreed, Dragonus. This would be a great animated film. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, folks, that does it. We want to know from you at this point, though. Have you read it? Have you not? Were you holding out? If you did you like it? If you're holding out, why? We want to know all of your thoughts. One thing that we have loved in the last year or so is the interaction that we have had with you guys, both in person and online via social media and YouTube. So please sound off wherever you're catching this episode, or go to our social medias. Let us know your thoughts. Let us know if we're wrong. I mean, if our opinions don't mesh with yours and you had issues, maybe you caught something that we didn't know or didn't catch when we were reading it. So
Is this your Wonder Woman Dead Earth to us?
I still think you're the only one who read that.
I think I am too.
Of us, yeah. So
I was gonna say of the entire world.
yeah, no, it was well respected. Anyway, that's
very well received.
Yeah,
I
it was
am
very
a
well,
monster
yeah.
for my opinion.
But you can catch that in a past current issues.
Yeah, go through our
episode.
back
So,
issue
go through
log.
our back issue log. So, but anyway, folks, that'll do it for our return recap, review, pickup, whatever from our one shot of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: The Last Ronin. And so I am Dr. Impact.
I am Dragonus Prime.
Smurf Gentry here.
You dumb mother.
What he means is you and everyone you know should subscribe, rate, and review our podcast on every app possible.
Hello, and we will do that again, you guys.
Not our fault. We are professionals.
This
We
is
didn't
what I
say
have
anything.
to. This is
We
what
said
I.
nothing.
No, but you guys both moved at the same time, and then you were suppressing a laugh, and then I was
He was
suppressing.
suppressing a laugh. I didn't like
I got it.
That's
I
how
got the. Yeah.
Unique New York. Unique New York. I was
Yeah.
gonna say my joke of going on about how Strawberry Shortcake enters, and it's really weird. Okay, yeah, I'll save all that.
There's a whole 6 issue with
Is
just
there?
one gangbang on
That's in the
April.
director's cut.
Yeah, it's awkward. I didn't like it, but I did jerk off to it.
I don't know what that means.